Peace, peace, family. Peace to the family. Let me know how it's sounding on the audio. Peace to the
Peace.
family. Hey, there we
You sound
go.
good.
Okay, all right. We in surround sound.
Yeah, I'm not on Wi-Fi, but yeah, we should be good. So people who are on Wi-Fi, they should be good. Your mic clear.
Yes, yes, yes. All right. Awesome, 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 slawsome. All right, family. We are in the building. We are here. All right. One more time, one more again. We started this thing out a week ago with the Vulture series. And here we are a week later, or what they call a strong later. Now, I just want to know, it's how many in the building already? It's past 50. We linked up 7 days ago, mind you, right? Yeah, it was 7 days ago. What the fuck? God damn it. What in 7 days? A goddamn 3 Subway novels already done dropped. Yeah, worth for information. Like, I can't make this up. No wonder Wendy Williams is in the state she is. It's too much. It's too much. Yeah, they fucked around and crashed her computer. There's just too much scandal going on, too much news. We can't keep up, but we can keep up. So that's why we're here tonight. And I brought a friend with me. You know what I'm talking about? I brought a friend because me and Blue Pill was unpacking some things last Thursday. So it was like, you know what? I got to unpack so much this Thursday because life is lifing. And we truly are in what they call the Aquarian age, because if we were not in the Aquarian age, I promise you, you would not be seeing the things that you're seeing right now. There's no the director of this movie is of a higher power, and they already dropped a script in many of our hands and whatnot in the form of ancient texts, scrolls, and things of that nature. Many of us have been familiarized with this saga or this mythos that we see in front of us. You know, there's a author by the name of Joseph Campbell, and he has a book that talks about the hero with 1,000 faces, but he also talks about the power of the mythos. I think I have the book. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I got the book. Let me see if I got the book. Give me one second. Selves comfortable. I see y'all in the building, man. Make yourselves comfortable. This is gonna be a powerful, powerful night.
Peace, peace, fam. Can y'all hear me? Am I coming through? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good, good.
You loud and clear, my brother. So yeah, I got this book right here, which is called The Encyclopedia of Gods. My Joseph Campbell book is somewhere else. But in The Hero with 1,000 Faces, he speaks about the hero's journey, right? And the hero's journey is something that is very important that we all have to really take a set. You know, I mean, it deserves not just one show or not just one lecture, to be honest with you. The hero's journey, it deserves about a 4-week master class, because that is how imperative, that is how deep, and that is how on point understanding, overstanding, and understanding the hero's journey is, right? It goes beyond speculation. It goes beyond what they call conjecture, right? It is a livable formula. It's something that every single individual could apply to their lives, especially if y'all tapped into these networks, because if you're over here, you're on a journey. You can't meet me on this road unless you're on the road less traveled. I don't exist on Broadway and things that I'm not standing out there where everybody else is at. This is the road less traveled. So when you're on this road, you're on what is known as the hero's journey. On a hero's journey, you are being challenged by life itself. On a hero's journey, you are embarking on this quote unquote quest, whether it be for knowledge, whether it be for abundance, whether it be for the riches, whatever it may be, you're on this journey and whatnot. And when you decide to embark upon this journey, you will be challenged. So the day that you took the red pill and was like, you know what? F that. I'm finna go against what my religious or my zealot like friends or my co-workers or my contemporaries tried to scare me and tell me not to do, or what curtain they told me not to look behind, or what door that they told me not to walk into. I'm finna do this. I'm finna put my finger in the glass and my hand goes through it. I'm about to bend the spoon. You feel me? I'm about to go into the dark unknown because there's something that's calling my name and I can hear it. Y'all might not hear that voice, but I hear it. And then you go on your journey. Why are we drawn to the movies so much? Why do these blockbuster movies always bring us into the movie theater? Because the majority of them are written off of the framework of what they call the hero's journey. And they're also written off of the framework of what is called the Asarian myth or the Asarian tale. And that story has been told and recycled time after time after time after time after time, right? And it will continue to be recycled. You feel me? So we live in a day and time when we're all collectively on our hero's journey. So what does that mean? What that means is nobody, there's not a person on this planet who you could look to from your left and your right who you could say, damn, this person got it better than me. Or I wish I was this You don't know what that person's hero journey is. You don't know what level of the hero's journey that person is on. Because I promise you this, on the hero's journey, there's highs and there's lows. Similar to being on a carousel or a carnival or any type of amusement park ride. You're going to have those highs, but you also going to have those lows. You're going to have those moments of joy, but you also going to have those moments of doubt and fear where you're going to be like, damn, what if my belt buckle came off? Or what if this, you know what I mean? What if this, you know what I'm saying? What if this shit just swings me off the goddamn, into space? So we have to take a personal toll, right? The ebbs and the flows. We have to collectively and individually take a toll on our journey. But what we also have the ability to do is we can examine other people's journey, because the hero's journey is the hero's journey. And once you step out on what they call the stage, once you put yourself in the public as a public figure, once you become known, because you have the ability and you have the right to be anonymous. That is something that you have the right. You have the right to walk around and wear a mask all day. You have the right not to come outside. You have a right to not give your name. You have the right to remain silent. But when you choose to put yourself out there, then you become a lesson. And everybody's watching and people are learning from you and whatnot. So there are so many stories and so many heroes' journeys that are converging in these first few months of 2024. There are so many lessons to be taught and to be learned by the rise and the fall that we see of people who've been in the public's eyes for a very long time. This man right behind me with the Star David on his forehead and whatnot, he might have been around longer than anybody on this quote unquote flyer and whatnot. This man right here is called Jacob Rothchild, right? We was breaking down Jacob and whatnot with the show that I did with the good brother Crumb from Crumb TV. Send that good brother Crumb some good energy and whatnot. Salute to Crumb. Shout out to Crumb. And I don't think people understand, nor could they fathom, because mainstream media is not going to talk about this man, nor are they going to talk about the significance of this man's family, nor are they going to talk about the wickedness and the levels of depravity and how far down the rabbit hole and how far of a when this man made transition, things died with him. Okay, this is one of the most diabolical individuals on this quote unquote plane of existence, right? And prior to that, a man called Henry Kissinger kissed the quote unquote, had a tongue kiss death and whatnot, and he was taken up out of here. There's so many things that are taking place all around us, and we may not be able to be capturing all of the quote unquote nuances or the stories and whatnot. Henceforth, why individual media is needed, right? Henceforth, why reporters such as myself and Blue Pill, right, were needed and whatnot. Why reporters such as ALKEBULAN, who are able to decode, not just report like Dan Rather is doing, rather to see the nuances, to be able to be symbol literate, like Black Dot and his son Malcolm, like Brother Rich, like KT the Arch Degree. You feel me? This is an art. This is an art. And this art is something that, is effective. It's very effective. Cause I'll be damned if I don't be sitting back and hearing Blue Pill break some shit down and unravel some shit, and then I see the whole play the next day unraveling before my very own eyes. I had to publicly apologize to Beyonce, my genius, because I was like, I spoke out of terms. I spoke against the country music and all of the things that they were about to do, not realizing the depth of what that whole demonstration really is about. You feel me? So I had to say, nah, I'm taking that back. This country shit is lit. Shout out to all of the melanated country singers out there. I'm finna get my boots and whatnot and go get my country, my Louis country shit from Pharrell. And I'm stepping out too. You know what I'm talking about? I'm stepping out too. My name is Philip, which means the lover of horses. How dare I talk crazy? My name is Philip, which means the lover of horses. I'm a horseman. You feel me? I was into polo from a baby. Like, nah, horses are my thing. I got traumatized in St. Croix because I saw them take a horse down and they picked that shit up in a bulldozer and dumped that shit. We was in school. We were in school. We had like, when we was in school in St. Croix, they would hit you with rulers and whatnot. I don't know if it was Catholic school. I was wild young. But we hear something go pop, like two pop. We hear it's like balloons popping and whatnot. So we all run to the window and we look out and they putting a horse down. They put the horse down and threw that shit in the back of the in a bulldozer. I was completely messed up after that, bro. Because I'm a lover of horses, you know. So I had to get my lick back at the Ralph Lauren store. So no, I'm pro country music. I'm pro that wave. You feel me? Everything that Texas has to offer, everything that Arizona had, all of the melanated communities. Salute to y'all, man. Y'all keep doing y'all thing. You feel me? And without any further ado, y'all, I want to bring on a brother who helps many of us walk through our hero's journey, right? By pointing out the science, the intelligentsia at work, right? By showing us that this is quote unquote a programmable reality, and there are nuances that you have to quote unquote pay attention to that you might not necessarily pay attention to every day because of the distractions and because of the fact that some of us have veils over our eyes. But what this young man does is he points out numbers and he points out the colors and he shows you how these things show up in popular culture and in society, and how symbol literacy is a real thing, and the great divine speaks through signs. And once you locked in, Nobody could lie to you because the great divine is not gonna lie to you. It's not about illusion, and it's damn sure not about disillusion. It's more so about the truth, and it's more so about being able to be content in what it is that you're seeing and hearing and whatnot. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring to the stage our very own KTL's alumni, ALKEBULAN, the Don. Peace.
Peace, peace,
Please
peace.
clap it up. Yeah, y'all can clap it up. Let's go. Clap it
Peace,
up. You can't
peace
hit
to
your
the
mic.
yeah. Peace to the family. Let me see. Let me. Okay, we're good. So this is just a preliminary. We got a monumental lecture that we're building out for the 22nd.
322, 322. Fire.
So that the numbers alone are powerful. And as we can see, it's a lot of stuff going on in the news. What we're going to dive into during the lecture alone is, we're all bearing witness to the activity of the sun. The sun is playing a major role as to, why everything is coming to the forefront. Maybe about 2 or 3 months ago, you bear witness for those who've seen what they call the Northern Lights, or what they call the Aurora Borealis, over in Iceland. They documented sound that was coming from those Northern Lights. And that sound is predicated on natural harmonic series. And when I say natural harmonic series, I'm talking about in conjunction to genetics. I'm talking about in conjunction to microbiology. Because as we all know, as above, so below, we all know that we had a symbiotic relationship to the sun, but the sun is predicated on sound. So when we're talking about sound, we're talking about a level of information from a celestial body that we can't audibly hear as if somebody was talking to us. But we can hear, things predicated on information that's being delivered if we can bear witness to it and develop a level of coherence to be able to embody those downloads as sound and get that download in and of itself. So, when we're talking about, genetics, we're talking about more specifically linguistics, and linguistics deals with speech. It deals with sound. More specifically, we're talking about linguistic wave genetics. Linguistic wave genetics. So when people were bearing witness to a sound that was coming from the Aurora Borealis, based on, right, a natural harmonic series, we're talking about numbers. So when we look out in nature, nature is governed by specific numbers. These numbers are 4, 3, 64, and 22. Now this 4, 3, 64, and 22 is embodied in the DNA. So when you have these solar flares going off, these solar flares are connected to certain numbers based on, again, and I'm gonna repeat myself a lot so that way you guys can internalize what I'm saying. These numbers correspond to the solar flares are based on a natural harmonic series. And these numbers are 4, 3, 4, 3, 64, and 22. So when you look in the body, you have, of course, the DNA, but you got the 4 nucleotides or base pairs. So when you got the number 4 in reference to the natural harmonic series, you got 4 base pairs in the DNA: cytosine, guanine, thymine, and adenine, right? So you only need 3 to synthesize what you call triplet codons. Now, triplet codons is the genetic language that speaks directly to the DNA. Currently, our codons are in a state of redundancy. And I'm going to go more specifically in that in the lectures because, words alone can't really explain, how in depth I can get into this with it. We need visuals. So You know, the codons is the genetic language that speaks directly to the DNA. So again, when you're dealing with the 4, the 3, the 64, and the 22, those are the natural harmonic series of sound predicated to the aurora borealis or northern lights that they heard out in Iceland, or the solar flares just in general. But they denote a biological reference based on linguistic wave genetics, because these sounds communicate directly to your DNA, more specifically your codons, that are naturally stuck in a state of redundancy predicated on reservoirs of information that are naturally encoded within us, but they haven't been stimulated yet based on this natural series of harmonics, which is 4, 3, 64, and 22, to speak to the codons to get them out of a state of redundancy and bring cosmic ancient information to the surface or to the conscious mind. So again, when we look into the DNA, we look at the 4. The 4 plays in reference to the nucleotide or the 4 base pairs that make up the DNA. When we look at the 3, we look at the triplet codons. These triplet codons are assigned to 20 amino acids. So the 20 plays out in reference to the triplet codons being assigned to a specific amino acid. The 22 comes into play when you have synthesis of proteins turning on or off. So when you look at the 4, again, the 4 is based on the base pairs or the nucleotides that make up the DNA. The 3 is predicated on the codons, or what you call triplet codons. The 64 now is tied into the variations that these codons can make up. So there's a combination of 64 that these triplet codons can make up in reference to a combination. And these codons are assigned to 20 amino acids. So when you are in alignment predicated on receiving information that's coming from the sun via sound, that sound or natural series of harmonics is recoding the DNA based on these numbers to stimulate the interest of information that's naturally encoded within the codons to bring them to the conscious mind. This again is getting into, and people can write this down, linguistic wave genetics, because we're talking about speech. Now, I find it interesting that, just recently we heard that Jacob Rothschild had made transition. And, I'm gonna go another angle with this in reference to what I'm speaking on, so that way we can stay on topic. But, it was known that the Rothschilds believed that they came from the bloodline of Nimrod, right? Nimrod is a Sumerian god who spoke about in Genesis in the Old Testament. And he was said to be responsible for destroying the Tower of Babel and eventually go against God. He was a adversary. He was chaotic. He was a war deity, and the Rothschilds believe that their DNA traced back to Nimrod. Now, this is why the Rothschilds as well were into interbreeding with family members to maintain a specific harmonic series in the codon, so that way they don't lose the integrity of the information being translated from person to person via them believing they're tied into Nimrod. Now, going back to what I said, Nimrod was responsible for, as said, destroying the Tower of Babel. When we look at the concept of the Tower of Babel, Babel is in reference to linguistics, which is speech, right? So babies babble, right? And tower denotes a specific vertical integration. So when you're thinking about tower, you're thinking about height. You're thinking about the raising of something. You're thinking about something being tall. So when you say Tower of Babel, more specifically, you're talking about raising the frequency to a point where language will no longer become English anymore. So when Nimrod knocked down the Tower of Babel, that then removed the specific language that we spoke in antiquity, because sound was the key. Sound becomes light. So information wasn't coming from us necessarily from our mouths per se. We were speaking through telepathy. We were using what they consider or call the physical medium or counter space or empty space to generate sound between one individual to another. So beyond this physical reality, there is no English. There are no words. So the Tower of Babel is denoted by raising or elevating into a height where you're no longer using the common way of delivering information, which is through words, through English. So when that is destroyed, the original language is removed. Now, it's interesting again that he just passed away, because now with sound moving into a whole nother spectrum, in our reality, henceforth, you see, individuals like Andre 3000 dropping a flute album, which, we'll get into in the lecture as well. We're moving into a space where sound will not only become the mechanism for healing, but sound will also be the mechanism that we use non-audibly in a way where, again, we don't physically hear the sound, but we intuitively hear the sound, right? So when we move into this space that we're going into, not only will sound be different from the level that we hear it through intuition or through the sun, through different star systems, but music itself is moving into a different arena relative to what you call counterpoint music. Counterpoint music. Counterpoint music is what individuals like Mozart used, or
Right.
individuals like Shakespeare
Right.
used. This is all in reference to a specific sound that, again, has its ties into genetics. You
Can
see,
right.
go
Is
ahead,
there
Ray.
anybody that makes that kind of music today? The Mozart and the Shakespeare that you could point out?
Today.
Yeah, in today's times.
Um, I would say somebody who makes that type of music. I mean, the closest thing that I can even think of right now that just literally came at the top of the dome was, Kendrick Lamar has a lot of like imitations of certain instruments that are used in like Mozart. The specific album that I'm talking about is To Pimp a Butterfly. A lot of that was used in that album specifically,
Right.
even the more recent one.
Right.
But they call it counterpoint music. And, again, this is a level of music that's dealing with harmonics. So when you're dealing again with harmonics, you're speaking about the language that the sun speaks, which is sound.
Right.
So
Sound.
sound.
And
So
I want to add on
yeah, go ahead.
that Blue pointed out our good brother Professor Griff dropped a sound album. Out of the left field, Little John dropped the sound album.
Right.
And then, of course, Andre 3000 drops a sound album, right? So right out of the A, these are all Atlanta artists, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're not asking the permission. They're collective. They're doing things individually, but it's a collective movement because, like you're saying, that's that reset. That's what's taking place. But please continue.
Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, that's the reset. And what I theorize, and I'm because I have this thing, right, where I've developed a certain capacity to be able to inherit information that's coming from the future, rolling backwards, that I receive to foreshadow what's to play out based on what I speak about in the present moment. So where I feel as if hip hop is going is eventually there is going to be no sound. But this is, again, before I speak on this is if we continue to refine ourselves to a point where we're able to channel information that's not through word per se. It's through intuition, and it's through manipulating the physical medium. When I say physical medium, I'm talking about counter space, or what they call the 0 point, or what they call dark matter. It's the space in between me and this phone. When we know how to self-engineer this space, we can manipulate the primordial waters, as the ancestors called it, to produce sound that somebody over in Atlanta can hear instantaneously. So we're talking about a certain form of telepathy. And people have heard
Right.
me use this term plenty of times, but this is going into a science, which is a science that we'll talk about on the 22nd, called laser interferometry. It's the same level of language that the sun speaks. It's called laser interferometry.
Mm.
Um, you know, so with that being said,
Can I
you
offer
know, when we're talking about hip hop is going more, or eventually going to go into a space where there'll be no longer words. It'll
right,
be just be visuals. It'll be still shots. It'll be art. And what's going to happen is you're going to internalize music predicated on the visual that you're
right,
picturing and that you're viewing.
right,
So the album is going to filter through you different than the person next to you based on the visual that your eyes are capturing. So
right,
say, you know, for example, let's just use Kendrick Lamar. What if he drops an album, you know, let's say a physical copy? And you know, back in the day, of course, we had the physical copies where we can go in the store, we can rip off the wrapper, we can, you know, take the book out, we can flip through the book, you know, and the book will have certain, you know, arts and pictures and things of that nature.
yep,
That's what it's going to become. So if we can get to a point where we can audibly hear without hearing per se, it's going to go into a space where, again, say Kendrick drops an album next year, it'll just be an album, but it won't be music per se. The
right,
music is going to come from the visual that's stimulating, more specifically, right? The cerebral cortex, that's going to give you the music intuitively. So everybody's going to filter the music differently, predicated on the visual. Now, you know, again, we're speaking, you know, 10, 15, you know, 20 years down the line. Um, but we gotta, you know, begin to understand, like, using that example as the visual becoming the music without any music per se. We got to begin to understand that that visual is gonna initiate thoughts. And you know what scientists, you know, haven't really came out, you know, mainstream yet, is that thoughts are concentrated within the chromosomes of the neurons, because thoughts actually initiate neurons to synthesize proteins. And for those who know how the body works, of course, proteins are an extension of amino acids. Amino acids come together to build proteins. So, you know, that is a level of speech through visual art, visual conception, looking at something, developing a thought, that thought stimulating the neurons synthesizing protein. And now that you have, you know, thoughts synthesizing protein via the neurons, we got to remember again, proteins come by way of amino acids, but amino acids come by way of what we talked about earlier, the triplet codons. So you're
right,
now manipulating the sequence of the codons predicated on optical visual art, by conceptualizing music through intuition, which then develops your physical body back to its original sequence, which is what I spoke about earlier, the natural harmonic sequence, which is that 4, 3, 64, and 22, which are the numbers that denote a natural harmonic sequence that the sun speaks. So, you know, I just, you know, and oh, let me not forget. You know, of course, we see
Can I add something real quick? I don't
please
want to
do.
interrupt. Yes,
Please do.
I wanted to show you that this is what changes it right here. This is the game changer, right? This is
That
what brings
is
people,
abs-
this is what puts visuals over sound beds and changes the DNA right here.
absolutely,
And let you know.
absolutely,
Now
absolutely.
you could feel colors, you could hear, you could feel from afar, you could feel from a distance, you could do many things through this now. This is it's part of people's it scans your eyes and whatnot. So it's you know, it's gonna manipulate the optics,
Hmm.
and people are gonna be able to change and shift their DNA through those devices, virtual, augmented, spatial, and then the new feel, like you said, feeling music is the haptic suit, the VULTURE
Mm,
vest. I got it upstairs, right?
exactly.
So when you put the VULTURE vest on, that's what the gamers use. It's a gamer vest. But when you plug it into the music, if you plug it into the speaker or if you in a studio and you plug it in, you know what I mean? If you plug it up, you're going to feel the music now through your body. So that's actually a party that we're putting together, a listening experience called Purple Sprite, you know,
Mm,
and it's
mm,
gonna have, yeah, it's gonna
mm.
be actually about the feeling of the music rather than it will, the music will be through the headphones, not all around you and everything, and you will
Mm-hmm.
have the feeling of the haptic along with the feeling of what the mycelium does is it
Yeah.
creates a body where the senses are, quote unquote, all of the senses as well as the six is now magnified.
Magnified. That's powerful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the music becomes food.
It becomes food. And
Yeah,
you know, you said feeling the music, you know, because
energy. Hmm.
energy. So when we talk about feeling, you know, we're of course talking about, you know, magnetism. And for those, and I've said this in the past, for those who really want to develop feeling or, you know, understand how to feel, because, you know, compassion is key. You know, when you see the baby who's being killed over in
Yeah,
dealing
Gaza
with
Strip,
Palestine and all of that, like, you know, the wars that are taking
Philistines.
place with Israel,
Right,
even down to the homeless person on the corner, you feel a certain level of compassion, but what you're feeling is your heart is initiating a center of gravity in it, which then you become the center of gravity of the earth, which then you become the center of gravity of the sun, the solar system, and now you're, you know, in alignment per se. That's what compassion really is, because like I've said in the past, you can't even say compassion without saying compass. And the compass is relative to magnetism. So when you follow compassion, you're naturally on your trajectory relative to the
right,
natural harmonic sequence that I was speaking about, because your codons are predicated on that 4, 3, 64, and 22 code. So when you run with compassion, that's feeling, right? But you can naturally do that mechanically as we speak through whether it's breath work or, whether it's just, you know, tapping into sexual alchemy and things of that nature. But breath work specifically, when you double your breaths, when you take more inhales and exhales, um, perfect example, you know, those who ever came across the image of the eye of Heru with the fractions, the 1/2, the 1/4, the 1/8, the 1/16, the 1/32, the 1/64.
yes.
For example, when you see the 1/4, that's 4 inhales and 1 exhale. So what's happening in the body when you do that, when you double the breaths, is that you're converting nitrate into nitric oxide. And you're initiating vasodilation. Vasodilation is when the blood vessels open up to allow blood to the surface of the skin. And when that happens, doubling the breaths, allowing blood to come to the surface of the skin, blood serves as an antenna for magnetism. So that way you could feel for things. You see, so when you see them in Kemet on the walls holding their hands up to certain individuals, they're doubling their breaths to generate blood to the surface of the palm of the hand so that way they can feel for a person. This is the science of the Reiki, you know, and all of these things. So feeling it's a powerful piece, and I'll even do you one better, Red, because you were speaking about the glasses. You know, again, music is going to go into another space completely. I again theorize that, you know, albums are going to be dropped to where they're going to be locations. It's not going to be something you can stream anymore. You got to physically get in the car and go to a location, because this location is almost going to be equivalent to what Jay-Z has in Brooklyn, where it's a whole
Right,
museum, right?
right.
So it'll be artifacts, it'll be pictures, it'll
Installation.
be pieces, it'll be an entire experience.
It's
So
an
for
ex
you to
right. Hmm.
Right. Yeah, so no, so for you to listen to the album, it'll be a whole, you know, museum of music. It'll be a whole experience. Say you're in there for about an hour, but it's all relative to the feeling that you're having, predicated on what you're experiencing, what you're filtering through your consciousness, and developing music through the experience alone. So, you know, again, sound is going to go into another spectrum. And, you know, again, the idea is to begin to refine the body in such a way that you allow the DNA to become a transducer, meaning it taps into the information that's unseen. You allow the brain to become a transducer, meaning, again, it taps into the unseen world. You allow the heart to feel, which is, compassion. You allow the physical body to become literally an antenna for things that you inherently wouldn't have felt prior to refining the body. And refining the body, again, can come by way of doubling the breaths. It can, of course, come by way of changing the way that you eat, more electric foods in the body. It comes, again, by way of putting your bare feet in the grass, like me and Red spoke about back in 2020 when we held our lectures. But refining the body also comes by way of overcoming certain, characteristics that you may have predicated on keeping you held down. So whether it's guilt, like we spoke about on YouTube, whether it's, jealousy, all these certain archetype or characteristics that we tend to run into, refining the body comes by way of having the courage to get through some of these humps. So, we have to move into a space where, we no longer become stagnant, predicated on not knowing what's going on in the world. So that's what me and Red are doing, is that we're laying out a blueprint, and we're seeing what's happening with Kanye West. We see what's happening with Diddy. We see what's happening, with what's her face, Wendy Williams. We see all this turmoil that's going on in the world, but as above, so below. And we are big players in this narrative. So once we can understand what we're seeing, then we can properly get ourselves in position to move in accordance with the cosmic narrative. So that way we don't fall behind based on not knowing what we're seeing. One thing I want to speak on too, again, because I'm gonna highlight this in the lecture on the 22nd in reference to the Rothschild and its connection with the deity, the Sumerian deity or god named Nimrod. One key point that I want to hit on is that, the Rothschild had a bank. They had actually a European hedge fund called Nimrod Diversified Holdings, NEMROD. It wasn't spelled NIMROD, which is what it's spelled in Sumerian, but it was spelled NEMROD, Nimrod Diversified Holdings. So that is another key piece that we're going to add on the 22nd in reference to, again, Rothschild not only just dying per se, but dying predicated on a sound that we're going to now move into based on what, we talk about, telepathy and things of that nature. But in a lecture alone with telepathy and speaking without being audible through the mouth, we're going to get into that science, because it's all based on genetics and switching up the coding within the DNA in order to adhere to sound that we can't hear through the ears, like, in a regular situation. So, that's going to be a key piece. And I feel like, like I said, a lot of this that is going on in the world that is unveiling or that is revealing itself is all based on the conjunction of the sun in reference to the earth and all these solar flares that are going off. So I don't want to give too much in this one. Like I said, the words aren't enough. We need visuals, and we need videos for you to really internalize what's being said. So, with that, Red, that's